Hi, Ethan. My name is Penny Wren, and I was just listening to the 17 Rooms podcast. I've been very interested in the Sustainable Development Goals, and particularly as they apply to setting up B corporations. I've read, I think, that having ways in which you plan to meet SDGs is a good way to qualify as a B Corp, if I'm not mistaken. But at any rate, I was listening to the episode of the podcast where you and Marcella, I think is the name of your colleague, are talking about opportunity metrics. And I'm curious as to, I was so zoned in when you were saying, for you as an accountant, everything needs to be measurable. Like that's how you see the world, is in measurability. And it seems like the concept of measurability is in an altruistic perspective, and with job mobility and with I forget what some of the other metrics were. I'm just like, I don't see how a company, what's the incentive to care about that? I mean, I know for the sake of public good, but I don't understand why such a capitalistic idea of companies, jobs, has become an altruistic proposition. Meaning, why aren't the measurements coming from a revenue perspective? Why aren't they coming from a perspective wherein you're more likely to get buy-in from stakeholders at top companies? Like, why isn't it that you're not focusing on coming up with a program that Elon Musk would feel crazy for not buying? And not like, I know that the Brookings Institute is a nonprofit, but in my mind, I'm thinking like, I feel like there's a sales disconnect here. Like, I don't understand who the audience is for the work you guys are doing. Because if the audience is companies, which I keep hearing that that's what this is, right? Like you're getting intel from companies and it's showing this and that. But none of what it seems to be showing about job mobility or whatever, that if someone gets trained that they're not going to leave, how does that benefit the company? And also there's this moment that I just paused the podcast. Like there's this moment where Marcella is saying, with the pandemic, companies, we're saying to companies that, you have to play catch up with all of these other companies who have really focused on employee engagement and making, a more valuable work experience to employees. Truck drivers, there aren't a lot of truck drivers anymore, but part of me is like, but those are also like, some of this is they're antiquated jobs. Like a lot of what we're also seeing is like, there's some antiquated jobs. So how does it's almost like if you're pitching this idea of making a job more attractive to people and creating more value out of it, maybe the job as it existed before, that's not the point. It's almost like I'm reading, this is going to sound really crazy, but I'm reading The Untethered Soul right now, which is, a super self-help new agey book. And there's a passage in there that's like, keep looking upward, keep being uncomfortable, keep facing your fears, keep creating new things. And it's less about figuring out why the old things are not working. And I'm wondering why, as a country, we seem to be so focused on why the old things aren't working. Meanwhile, every single rich person and valuable company, valuable entity in the U.S., they're the look-uppers. They're the looking uppers. And to me, that's where the metrics are. That's where the meat is. That's where the wealth is. That's where teaching people how to be that, like creating a world of Elon Musk, even if they're not all running Tesla, but creating a world, even of just adjacency, like creating a world in which the jobs of the now and of the future are jobs for which everyone will be qualified or be more qualified, and how that and getting companies who are currently, super revenue focused, finally, like literally creating sales proposals for those companies that help you generate the fucking metrics that you're, sorry, because like that help you generate the metrics that you want. Like, so for example, like what could selling this initiative to Tesla look like? Elon Musk is always in the doghouse. Like he has absolutely no, there's just nothing about him that is socially minded or virtuous. He needs something to make him more socially minded or virtuous. Everything that he's investing in is about machines. Nothing is about people. And if to me, so much of what he is spitting and his rhetoric is frightening and it's misleading, because at the end of the day, what makes his company successful are the people that he hires. And it's not about a complete machines taking over the world. It's not about all of that. And he's even said, like, it's not that we don't have too many people. We have not enough people. So what kind of people do we need to be building? To me, that partnership or that insight or that selling your resources as, we're invested in this and we want to help whatever. That would just be so smart and wise and it's based in profitability. And at the end of the day, altruism is not a thing. It's just not a thing, because at the end of the day, it's just conversation, and it's just a lot of why. It's just a lot of what if, and it's not a lot of practical application. And meanwhile, schools are teaching children STEM, quote unquote, but acting as if STEM is just, you can build an app. That's not it. STEM is also understanding how to integrate new technology as it evolves. You're never going to be able to know everything. So what does it look like to be to understand and apply iterative learning to new technology? How do we teach that? People who have that skill, like, how do you teach that? What does someone look for when they're hiring someone to make sure that they know that they can apply that? What are some jobs that have that transferable skill, and how can more people be in those positions? I'll tell you now, I'm a former journalist. I worked in media and editorial. There is nothing like writing for magazines and editorial production that makes you adapt to being a curator. And at the end of the day, a curator's mindset is so valuable. It will be so valuable in a new economy. It's just like there's infinite applications, infinite spinoffs. You feel like you could be the Norman Lear of like employee groups, like here's All in the Family. Now here's the Jeffersons. Now here's, Lionel and Janet. Like there's just this aspect of spinning things off, that comes naturally to you. And that adaptability, that right there to me seems like it's the thing that one needs to be quantified, needs to be measured, and two needs to be kind of somehow needs buy-in from profitable makers, profitable capitalists saying like, hey, this skill, and we're going to name it, and we're going to quantify it and talk about how it has boosted our bottom line. We're going to talk about what it looks like when a person who has, adaptive transferable skills, right, goes into a room to do a sales proposal versus a person who has had, a straight path in communications or a straight path in X, Y, and Z thing, right? And if that adaptive person, has an X percent success rate over the other person, then that amounts to X percent in revenue or employee retention. If a manager who has a particular skill set is in a role, how are they then, how are they then contributing to employee retention? And how does employee retention contribute to your bottom line? Like, those are why is it not being approached from that way? I'm rambling, but I'm curious. I don't understand who this is for. Like, it sounds way too academic and not practical. Even with the measurability, like, the measurability is the dopest part about it, yet it just feels like measurability for the sake of measurability, because you've got to make something specific and measurable if you're doing it, right? But it just doesn't seem practical. I'm just curious if you can help me see how it is. Thanks, random, but thanks.